Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Superheroes Movies and Superhero Movies. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm John Pelzel.
And I'm SmoothJStew.
And today we're talking about Howl's Moving Castle, released in 2004, directed by Hayao Miyazaki, starring Gene Simmons, Christian Bale, Lauren Bacall, Blythe Danner, Emily Mortimer, Josh Hutcherson, and Billy Crystal. This is an interesting choice to do, and it's mostly because John and Stu are trying to convince me that I will like these movies. If you have been listening to us for a while, you know that we did Princess Mononoke. It was a while ago. It was like episode 15 or something, and I was not a huge fan of it. John loved it, and Stu, I have learned, is a big fan of it too. So they thought, well, maybe you'll like Howl's Moving Castle. So before I get into my thoughts, this was my first time seeing the movie, obviously. I would like to hear, when you guys saw the movie for the first time, if you recall, or what your initial thoughts were.
John, if you want to go first.
I mean, it's been a while. I remember when it came out, I think it was the most current Miyazaki movie. I remember Netflix was kind of...
Yeah. Okay, I get it.
And like Netflix was kind of new at the time, and I was starting to, try to rent some of these. This was before Netflix was streaming, so you'd get the, disc in the mail. And with this service, I was like, I can start seeing a lot of anime that I, haven't gotten to see. And I hadn't really been into anime that long before this, but it was... The one that I first started watching was Spirited Away. And then John Lasseter had like this little intro where he comes in and talks about how great, the Miyazaki movies are and Studio Ghibli. And I remember the last words he said after his little intro was like, you were about to experience Spirited Away. It wasn't like that, but it wasn't verbatim for that, but it was like that.
He was basically saying like you're about to. Was he saying like you're about to experience something like you've never seen before, type of thing?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So after that, I loved Spirited Away, and I just kind of went on just watching all of the Miyazaki movies. Howl's Moving Castle, I believe, was probably the next one because I had heard good things about it, and like I said, it was I think the current new one at the time. Mm-hmm. So that's really all. I remember liking it, and it was kind of in the time where I was watching all of these Studio Ghibli movies for the first time.
Yeah, I first time I saw this was in high school. We watched it in my digital arts class. I have no idea what the relevance of these films were for digital arts, but I'm very glad that I did watch this film. We watched Howl's Moving Castle and Princess Mononoke in the very next day, and I instantly fell in love. Like Howl's Moving Castle is amazing. It's beautifully animated, and I think I've seen it 5 or 6 times. I think this was the 6th time that I've watched it. I actually watched it twice before this recording. I watched it the first time and was very sleepy, so I had to turn it off and go to bed like a responsible adult.
Right.
And then I watched it tonight actually while I was out driving for work. I had it playing in the background, so I was like listening to it as I was driving, and I was just telling John, like, even though I've seen this movie 5 times before, I've actually paid the most attention to it this time, not really looking at it, just listening to it. So it's definitely one of my favorite movies. That and Princess Mononoke is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, I think I've only seen this maybe like, this might have been my 4th or 5th time watching it. I watched it twice too, actually. And my daughter, who has seen it apparently far more times than I have, was like she was like, "Oh, that's the royal city," and I was like, "Are you sure?" And she was like, yeah. She's like, I could quote this stuff. And she was like, I should do the podcast. But she was like right after she said that, it said Royal City. And I was just like, wow. So yeah, she definitely has that. She's a big fan of Studio Ghibli and this movie as well. So
Nice.
Very cool. Well, yeah, so this was my first time watching it. I did not watch it twice. I only watched it the one time. Actually, John texted me like 2 days in a row. He's like, you watched Howl's Moving Castle yet? And I was like, not yet. It was a very busy week for me at work. And so I
wanted to be able to watch it and know that you had seen it so I could be watching it and be like, all right, Justin has seen this part. And I wonder like,
right.
What his reaction was to it.
Right. No, it's unfortunately.
But I didn't get to.
Yep.
I had to be like, fine, whatever. I'll just watch it.
Yeah, I was gonna watch it last night, but that didn't happen either, and so I watched it today, and it was not the greatest viewing, because I had to start and stop it a couple times, so I didn't get to sit down and just watch it in one sitting. But that being said, I thought it was incredible. I really
Wow! I'm so excited.
I really, really liked it. This was there is one other Miyazaki film that I have liked, and it was called The Wind Rises, but it was much less fantastical, I guess.
Yeah.
And so this is the second Miyazaki film that I have liked. I saw Spirited Away, but it was back in, I want to say it was before this movie came out. It was like 2002 or 3 or something. And I didn't like it at all. But after watching this movie, I feel like I might need to go back and revisit it.
I do too.
Yeah.
Same. I watched Spirited Away maybe about 3 or 4 months ago for the first time. And I was very sleepy. And I remember not enjoying myself, but after watching this again, I definitely need to revisit Spirited Away.
Yeah.
Same. Yeah. Maybe we'll do that next.
Let's have a Studio Ghibli marathon.
Yeah. I'm really happy that Justin enjoyed this movie.
Yeah, I'm kind of shocked actually.
Yeah. No, I really did.
Sure.
It was really, it was really well paced, and it was really like I was into it. The whole idea about him being a wizard, and the whole like the magical door that he has that lead, because I was a little confused when I first watched it, and granted, I was like half, like part of the reason I had to start and stop it was because I was taking care of my son for here and there. And so like I saw her like Sophia, what's her name? Sophie.
Yeah.
Sophie, she like climbs aboard his moving castle, but then the next scene they're getting visitors to that door, and I was like, wait, I thought they were on a moving castle. I was like, what did I miss? And I had to like rewind it, and I was like, no, she's on a moving castle. And then I realized I saw the little like color wheel, and God, I'm gonna get everybody's names wrong. Calcifer, thank you. He was like, that's the blah 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 door, and I was like, that is awesome. I just was really into it. So I really enjoyed it. But it's also definitely a movie I feel like I need to watch again, because I feel like even though I really liked it, and I feel like I understood it, I feel like there's so much in the movie that I wasn't able to soak it all in. So I do think I need to give it another viewing. So I'm glad you guys made me watch it.
Awesome. Do you know what moment it was where you were like, I actually am liking this? Was it the door?
It was probably around that area. It was I'm trying to think of it was probably around that with Calcifer and them just kind of talking about like the magic and things like that. I know it wasn't, I mean, I didn't mind the scene with the Witch of the Waste kind of coming in and cursing Sophie and stuff. But I don't think I was sold on it just yet.
Right.
So I think it was probably around the time where she hops on the moving castle and meets Calcifer and meets the kid Markle and that just kind of the world, I guess, around the castle and stuff. I thought was just really cool. So it was probably that was probably around, which is pretty early on. I think when I paused it at one point, it was only like 20 minutes into the movie, maybe, or something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's pretty early.
yeah.
Watching it again, I think one of my favorite moments where I was just like, man, this movie is just so good was, or it was very early on too, and it was Turnip Head.
Yeah.
When he's like hopping, right? And it's just like this almost scarecrow. He's a scarecrow,
Right.
but it's kind of reminiscent of like Wizard of Oz or whatever. And he's
I thought
he's got
about
like he's got like, you know, the sports coat on, and like the gloves, and he's just like hopping, and that's one of the things I think that's so subtly magical about the Studio Ghibli
You took
movies.
the words right out of my mouth.
It's like the artwork.
Yeah.
The way that it moves, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So you just it just has a unique sense to it.
Yeah.
You, Justin, have mentioned in the past, and this is different than the way that the art moves, but obviously it has that traditional anime style to it that you said that you've never really been a big fan of. I guess it didn't really bother you this time.
No, I think that style of animation is starting to grow on me because a lot of the DC animated movies have kind of used that style of animation too. It's probably animated, you know, in Japan or you know, or something. And so I've watched a lot more of it. I haven't really watched a lot more anime, but I've seen that style of animation more, and so it doesn't bother me as much. So no, I never during the only thing I would say that kind of, I won't even say it bothered me, but I just, maybe one element that I wasn't a huge fan of in terms of the aesthetic was Calcifer himself. I thought Calcifer, I think, was my favorite character, actually. I love Calcifer, but I just thought I felt like they could have made him a little more detailed. Like the anime style of animation is very detailed, and it looks, you know, it's just very, I don't know how else to say it other than detailed, but and he looked just very simple and just almost cartoonish. And I think they could have made him look a little bit better. But at the same time, anyway, it didn't really bother me. I got used to it. But when they first showed up, I was kind of like, he looks like, you know, almost like it was lazily drawn.
It's interesting that you mentioned that because I recently watched a documentary on Miyazaki, and it was about the production of the short he did after The Wind Rises. It's about a caterpillar. And there are moments where he's like talking to the animators and he's like criticizing, you know, nicely.
Right, yeah. Constructive criticism.
Constructive criticism. The way that then again, he can be, you know, very to the point too, but you know, he's like, I need more movement here and all this stuff. So he's extremely detail oriented and kind of OCD about it. And I think that he probably would have been this way too, you know, obviously with Calcifer.
Yeah. Hearing you say that makes me think that was, I mean, obviously it was deliberate, but it was like, that was how he wanted Calcifer to look, obviously. So,
right.
It's an interesting choice. I just personally kind of would have rather seen it, I don't know, just look not quite as cartoony. I mean, he had like the big, just simple drawn eyes. I mean, it was basically like a circle with the black dot in the middle.
Circle, yeah.
I don't know. But at the same time, how else do you animate it? I mean, he's essentially just fire with eyes and a mouth. You know,
that's constantly changing.
Right.
So, like, you can either go super detailed, which would have taken forever,
which would have been really hard.
But at the same time, I would think that he, you know, as the director, would be like, if that's what it takes,
right,
that's what it takes.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I know what you're saying.
Right. Yeah.
No, I definitely agree with you. For me, the thing about Calcifer was, as far as his look, was his arms. His arms were like kind of very flaily and skinny,
almost like a one of those inflatable, like
like
wavy
at the car wash.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I agree with you there. One of my favorite things, well, two of my favorite things about this movie is to piggyback on what John said was the magical feeling that you get watching this movie. Like very few movies have that, and this is one of them. Wizard of Oz has that feeling. The Goonies has that feeling. The first Back to the Future has that feeling. Like it's definitely a whimsical, almost fairy tale like feeling that you get from this movie that just completely immerses you in that world, and it makes you more interested to see what happens, especially with the way this movie is animated. Everything just is so the movement is so smooth, and it's a very, very colorful movie.
It's almost like calming.
Right. Yeah, it's very calming. Even the music. Oh,
the music is
score
really
for
good.
this movie.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And I love how they reuse the same motif but use different instruments. So like when the movie comes on, you hear the theme, you hear Howl's theme, but it's a piano playing. But during like some of the battle scenes or the chase scenes, you hear that theme, but it's like very triumphant, and it's got a lot of trumpets, and it's just I mean, the movie is just so magical. I can't say too many good things about it. Like,
you're right, and a lot of movies that try to do that, like you can tell they're trying, but they're not hitting it. And this one, there's nothing missing. You know, it's doing exactly what it's trying to do.
Yeah, definitely.
One of the things I was surprised to see was in the opening credits that it's based on a novel. I didn't realize that it was based on a novel. It kind of makes me. I imagine some Miyazaki probably kind of changed some of it and kind of made it his own. But I would be curious to read the novel and see, you know, what is the same and what has changed and how closely they stuck to the source material. But I thought Miyazaki did mostly original stuff, so I was surprised to see that it said it was based on a novel.
Yeah, I actually had forgotten that. So when I saw that too, I was like, oh, that's right. It's based.
I forget that every time I watch the movie.
And then I started, like, after watching this, started Kiki's Delivery Service, and the story was not by him, but at the end it says directed, written, and
Produced.
Yeah, produced.
So he
by Miyazaki.
So he wrote the screenplay probably, but it was somebody based on.
But he didn't come up with the idea.
Did he? I'm assuming he wrote the screenplay for this one, right? I didn't notice in the credits actually if there was anybody else.
I'm pretty sure he did. I think
he did. He did. It was Hayao Miyazaki and the author, Diana Wynn Jones. Mm-hmm.
So what did you think of the voice acting, right? Like, we've got Christian Bale, Billy Crystal, awesome job.
Yeah. I liked all the voice acting a lot, actually. I thought when Christian Bale, like, there's a couple times I felt like Christian Bale's voice almost doesn't really match Howl. And part of like that, like when in the beginning, when he's got the blonde hair, I felt like it didn't quite match. But as the movie went on, it felt more and more right. And I loved hearing his Batman voice.
Yes.
So you picked up on what I was talking about.
Oh, yeah. You texted me about that beforehand, so but I had forgotten about it until the scene showed up, and he, you know, I can't remember the lines he says, but at one point he tells her to go away or something. He's like, "Go away." And I was like, "Oh, it's Batman." And this was before Batman Begins came out, so that was kind of it's kind of cool.
All I could think of was The Dark Knight. Mm-hmm. This city is full of people ready to believe in God.
Yes, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but Emily Mortimer.
Well, he doesn't do that voice in Batman Begins.
Yeah, no. Not really.
It's
not really.
Yeah, it's The Dark Knight. Yeah. So I think when they were like, probably after Batman Begins, they were like, we need to do something about your voice, and he's like,
I was watching Howl's Moving Castle the other day. That would actually be kind of funny because I don't think it was Nolan's choice, but it would be kind of funny if Nolan.
I think it was Christian Bale.
Yeah, it would be funny though if Nolan said that. You know, he's like, "Hey, you know what? I was watching Howl's Moving Castle the other day, and remember that scene where you did that gruff voice? You should do that for Batman." But the other cast, Emily Mortimer, she was the young Sophie. Thought she was really good. Gene Simmons was the older. Gene Simmons, that's right?
No.
Gene Simmons is from Kiss.
Yeah, it's Simmons though. I can't remember
Her name is Gene Simmons. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
It is.
It's just not spelled the same.
It's Jean.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Gene Simmons as the older Sophie is excellent. She does, she's most of the movie.
Yeah.
And then Lauren Bacall as the Witch of the Waste was really, really good too. And I'll tell you what, one of the things that really interested me about this movie was I thought Witch of the Waste was going to be the primary antagonist.
Right.
And so then when they get to the palace, which was, by the way, there's two things I really like about that scene. Number one, watching the Witch of the Waste go up the stairs and essentially melting. It was super gross. It was really cool, but it was gross. But I also
she was so annoyed too. She says she thinks she's so smart and making me go through all these godforsaken stairs.
But I also like that. I mean, it shows Sophie's character really comes out because she, even though she's like, undo this curse and I'll help you, she still helps the Witch of the Waste and takes her in after the woman at the palace who's Madam whatever, she takes away her
Solomon.
Yeah, she takes away her powers and Sophie, Sophie could have just been like, see ya. But she didn't. Right. She took care of her and everything. And I thought that, showed.
And during that same scene when they wheel the Witch of the Waste in and she's just like, a shell of what she was.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Sophie's like traumatized. Mm-hmm. She's like, what have you done to her?
Yeah.
So yeah, you definitely got that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I love Sophie's probably my favorite character in the movie. Her and Calcifer. But the thing about Sophie is, just like you said, she remains compassionate throughout the entire film, even though she has tremendously low confidence and self-esteem. Right. She genuinely cares for other people, even though the Witch of the Waste put that terrible curse on her. When she sees the Witch of the Waste become so old and senile, she has a tremendous amount of sympathy for her, and still takes her in and takes care of her. She cleans up Howl's house, makes breakfast for him, and she's really the heart of the story. And
that is true.
The way she treats everyone throughout the film and comes to Howl's defense and takes care of the Witch of the Waste, like it really drives the story forward.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And then she does care about everybody. I mean, she argues with Markle a little bit in the beginning, but by the end she cares so much about Calcifer and Markle and even the Witch of the Waste. I mean, she's like a true loving character, but she also, she's not even though, like you said, she was not confident and had low self-esteem, she's not a passive protagonist. She's definitely the one that drives the story forward at times. So yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, she even mentions
Howl. Oh, my bad. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, she even mentions like how her she says like these outbursts are like kind of refreshing or something, because it's like Markle was like, she was like, I'm gonna clean up everything, and she's like, whatever you want, I'm gonna clean up whatever, so pick up whatever you don't want cleaned up or thrown away. And he's like, do my room last. And she's like, oh, these outbursts are actually kind of refreshing. So she's like not used to being like that.
Yeah.
She gets Calcifer too, where they make the deal, and she's wanting to make breakfast, right. And he's like, I'm not making breakfast for you.
Breakfast.
She's like, should I tell Hal about our
deal?
He just starts making the bacon.
Yeah. Even Howl, he's a complex character, because he has a reputation that precedes him of being this charmer, and he is. He's very eloquent. He's very, very polite. But he admits that he's a coward and he hates that he's so afraid of Madame Solomon. And I love the complexity of both Sophie and Howl, and how they have how they kind of rub off on one another.
Mm-hmm.
Something I've never really, I didn't grasp it either times watching this. So once again, it could have been my ADD. I don't know, but does it ever go into, is he a human or is he that bird form?
I always assumed that he was a human that could turn into a bird, because he mentions the other wizards turning into those creatures and saying that they forgot that they were ever human.
Right.
I assume that he's just like them, and he was born a human, but taught magic by Madame Solomon and could turn into and can be a shapeshifter.
Right. But for whatever reason, Calcifer at one point says, like, if you keep doing this, you won't turn back into a human.
Right.
So I don't know what causes that exactly, but I think
when he changes shape too much, he might get stuck in it if he does it too much.
Right. Which is kind of a cool concept, because it gives him these cool powers, but there's a consequence. So that's I think that's a really cool element to the story.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to jump in and say this earlier. I'm kind of backtracking a little bit, but I guess I never got the opportunity. When you were talking about Turnip Head, I didn't write this down, but you reminded me of it. When she first meets Turnip Head, she like sees a stick and thinks it'd make a good cane, and then realizes it's a scarecrow, and she's like, "Oh, weird, you're a scarecrow." Okay. She goes down the path, and she turns around, and you see him like hopping towards her, and I remember thinking, I was like, I would be running the other way if I saw like a scarecrow.
Absolutely. I would be freaked out, man.
I'd be like, ah! So,
well, I think
she was only kind of freaked out.
Yeah.
Well, you see, she doesn't want to be bothered, and she's very old and decrepit. So like her legs are going a little faster, but they're going as fast as they'll let her go, which is not very fast.
But it kind of seemed like she was more inconvenienced than freaked out.
Scared. Right. She didn't seem like super scared about it. Yeah, but exactly. I would have been like, no, thank you. Something out of a horror film. But I really kind of grew to like Turnip Head. He just was always, he doesn't have any lines until the end. And, but he's just always...
He brings her the umbrella,
right? Yeah,
when
he
it's
brings
raining.
her the walking stick too. I think when he's hopping towards her on that path, he brings her a walking stick.
Yeah,
and she even said, she's kind of actually mean to him in the very beginning. She's like, "Oh, maybe you can find me some shelter," and he like bounces off, and she's like, "Okay, thank God I got rid of him."
And then he finds the castle.
But he brings her. Yeah, he finds the castle. But he's always kind of around and helping them. And Markle at one point says like, maybe he's a demon like Calcifer. But I liked how you find out at the end that it's the missing prince from whatever kingdom. It's kind of almost said in passing in the beginning of the movie. The only thing I didn't like was that he was like, somehow I got cursed. Like there's really no explanation for it other than just somehow I got cursed. And so I was like, okay, well, whatever.
The other thing they do is, the curse could be lifted by true love's kiss, which is Sophie, but it's not
his. Maybe it's his true love. Maybe he fell in love with Sophie, but
maybe
I think it's the Witch of the Waste that makes the comment afterwards. She's like, "It looks like your true love is in love with someone else."
I missed that line.
So.
She's the one, the Witch of the Waste is the one that says, I know that curse. It can only be lifted by true love's kiss. But I had that same thought. I was like, but Sophie doesn't love Turnip Head. She just kissed him to like, as a thank you. But maybe Turnip Head was in love with Sophie. I don't know. But
it could be. But I do like
he'd been following her the whole movie.
That's true. He's basically stalking her.
Yeah. I do love the fact that Turnip Head's personality is consistent throughout the whole movie. Even when he turns back into the missing prince, he still feels like Turnip Head when he turns back human, because he's just so like happy go lucky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Another thing I really liked was Markle's disguise. Like when we first see the
old man,
the shop, I guess, and how he pulls it on so fast, but like I just love that he's like this little old man, even though he sounds very much like a child pretending to be an old man.
Yeah, I love it. The voice.
Yeah.
I don't remember what he said. Let's see. What does he say?
hello, little girl.
Stand by. Stand by.
Right, yeah. Hello, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, he like it's so obvious, but I just love it. I thought it was really good.
I thought you might think I forgot though, like watching it again, that Howl is in the beginning of the movie and that it's clearly him when he saves Sophie from those two creepy guards. But I was thinking that when Markle shows up and starts doing the magic, I was like, I wonder if Justin's gonna think that's Howl. But like I said, they do show. They do show him at the beginning of the movie. And I love his entrance when he comes in, and they talk about that black door first.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's like, what's behind the black door? And Markle's like, only Master Howl knows that. And then they do a little bit, that's where she gets the cooking. And then the door opens and it's Howl coming through. And you can see his face is covered by his hair. And you can tell he's exhausted. And his shoulders are slumped. And it's just dead silent. And you can see that he comes in through the black door. Like when the door opens, that little spinny wheel goes to the black door and it opens and Howl comes through. But he's, when he starts talking immediately, he's polite and clearly knows that this old woman is the same girl that he saved in the alleyway. So I would say Howl kind of had a thing for her from the beginning too.
Interesting.
No, absolutely.
Again, this, like I said, it's one of those movies I need to watch again because I didn't pick up on that. I didn't realize that Howl knew that Sophie was the same girl. So I wondered. I was like, why is he just like letting this old woman stay with him and being cool with it? And
well, it doesn't really go over that, but I that's my assumption.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah,
and I think
he touches her
that,
when he grabs the pot, like it focuses that their hands touch.
Oh, okay, yeah,
and yeah, I think he knew.
Gotcha.
Yeah, he knew. Howl is I'd like to think that Howl is very intelligent. Because Madame Solomon said that that he was her greatest apprentice.
Mm-hmm.
So he picks up things quickly. So I'd like to think that he was just playing along, but he knew all along that the old lady was Sophie.
Right. And also like watching it a second time, I know certain things now. So like, I don't think I noticed, or even if I did, it didn't mean anything yet that he was coming from the black door.
Right.
I don't know. I didn't know what that meant yet. So yeah, this is definitely a movie that I think I will enjoy on rewatch.
Yeah. Oh, and he definitely had to know because Sophie, she gets younger as the movie progresses, and he never mentions
at certain parts.
Yeah,
it's like it's interesting because like she'll go out and she'll see like a beautiful scenery, and then you'll see that her humpback has gone. She still has the wrinkles on her face, but then when she's talking to Madame Solomon, like she actually goes completely young.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and her
because
hair
she's
turns
talking
back
about
brown.
How.
Yeah.
I love those moments too, where you can hear her voice is getting a little younger, and you can see some of the wrinkles. Like she still has the gray hair and everything, and she still looks old. But if you really look at her, there are aspects of her that have gotten younger at certain points.
It's like certain emotional moments and stuff for her. It's like. So I wonder if she's like kind of got powers too, because that's essentially undoing the spell by her doing that. But also, like, at one point, Calcifer says, she asks Calcifer something like, it might be when she's putting back his heart. Like, if I put back the heart, will you live in it? And he says something like, only if you do it. Or, I think if you, as long as you do it, I think
if you do it, I'll
work.
be okay.
And so I think there's something about Sophie where she's got powers of her own or something kind of, I think, but doesn't even realize it.
Or it could just
I
be the, like, just the fact that it's, true love, and love just has
that could be too.
That natural power because she clearly loves Howl.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would say Howl probably loves her too.
Maybe.
Yeah, Howl. Yeah, I think Howl loves her.
Yeah.
But I think the thing about Sophie, at least for me, from my interpretation, was she whenever she spoke with confidence, that's when the spell kind of dissipated.
Yes.
But whenever she went back to not having confidence, that's when she would become an old lady again.
Yeah.
And I think that's when she would age. And I think that her old lady persona is how she perceives herself. And then when she's confident and outspoken, that's when her younger self comes to the surface.
Right. And you
So
definitely see that at the end too, when her hair is shorter and Hal says something like, "Your hair is like starlight." And she's like, "You like it? Me too." You know, it's like she's kind of accepted herself now. She loves herself.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good message, kind of.
Absolutely.
To love yourself. There was another thing I was going to mention about. Oh, I love the scene with Madame Solomon and how Hal shows up as the king. And she's like, "You're very elegant today, King." And then the real king walks in, and he's all like, "Ah!"
He's like, "Ha ha!"
Yeah, it's like, "Oh, that's
I've got him now.
That's the best double you've done yet, Madam Solomon." It's pretty great. She's like, "It's good to see you, Hal."
Figured out a way to win the war.
I also liked what's his name? Keen?
The dog?
The dog.
The dog?
I think it's Heen, I think.
Is it Heen?
Yeah, it's Heen. Yep. Heen.
Okay.
Heen.
So I liked when she's walking right to Madame Solomon's, and she's like looking for where Howl is, and then Heen just shows up, and she's like the little like eyes that she does, and then she does like the second time where she's like looking up, and then she slowly looks back down. She's like, "Is that?" I don't remember what she says. She's like, "Is that the best you come up with?" And it wasn't him.
Right, I know. But I thought it was. I thought, oh, that's actually clever, disguised as a dog. Because she was like, "Is that you, Hal?" And the dog obviously doesn't say anything.
But I love his design. He's got like this droopy big face and these tiny like little like
tiny legs.
Chicken legs.
And I like how he's supposed to be a really old dog. So that at one point when he's barking, it's when Sophie's like crying and her ring starts glowing. And Heen sees the ring, and he's trying to get her attention. He can't bark. He's like, I like that. I thought that was pretty good.
I love the part before she meets Heen, where she's looking for Howl, and she's like, "No, that's not him. No, that's not him. That thing's awfully flamboyant. That could be him." So I thought that was pretty cool.
I also love the Witch of the Waste when she pulls the curtain back and her head is like bigger than the window.
Yeah, that that was kind of weird,
obviously,
but it was
but it stands out.
Yeah.
It definitely grabs your attention, and you're just like it just made her stand out as a character to me even more. And then obviously it's magic,
right?
But she gets out and she's like bigger than the carriage that's carrying her. And I love all the characters' design in this movie, but it's also very typical Miyazaki design. Like if you watch Spirited Away, I think you'll know what I'm talking about, because there's a older lady in that
she reminded me
kind of similar to the Witch of the Waste a little bit. And then you have the like those weird globby henchmen,
right?
Like there's a lot of that in like I was rewatching Princess Mononoke the other day, and just kind of that same style of just a weird lifelike goo. He seems to use that a lot. I'm pretty sure it's also in Spirited Away.
Could be
as well.
Yeah. I don't remember a whole lot from Spirited Away because it's been almost 20 years now since I've watched it, probably. But I remember thinking that it felt slow, and I remember thinking it was just weird. And that's
It's
probably
definitely weird.
and that's probably what I would have thought about this movie too. If I had tried to watch this movie back then, I probably would have thought it was weird with like the scene where Howl goes, which by the way, I was like, well, geez, kid, where he goes like, you know, I don't see a point in living if I can't be beautiful or whatever. And then he starts to like melt. That was a little.
It's one of my favorite moments.
I knew John was gonna say that. I knew you were gonna say. I was watching. I was like, this has to be one of John's favorite moments in the film. And
he's throwing such a big temper tantrum. He just slams his head down and it's just sitting there for like hours, melting.
If I can't be beautiful, there's no point in living.
And like Sophie goes out and like talks. That's I think in the winter rain, and I think that's when Turnabout comes. They go back in, and he's still just sitting.
Calcifer's like,
and Markle's like, yeah, I've seen this before. He's calling upon the dark spirits again.
That's right. Yeah, he's like, yep, going through this again. My favorite moment in that scene is when Sophie's helping him up the stairs. They animate it so well, and she looks back and she sees the towel on the steps, and she's like, like she's like trying not to look. She's like, oh my gosh. They did such a great job animating that. That made me laugh.
Yeah. He's got a very interesting room too. I don't know if you remember, but there's just like gold and jewels everywhere, and
it looks like a painting.
Yeah, and he's got like this little weird like pendulum thing, like with an eye that's like moving next to it. It's so cluttered. Like it's just completely cluttered, but it's pretty too.
Yeah, it's fantastical.
Like it's exactly.
I also love when Hal makes the castle bigger. You know, he's talking to, he even says like, this family's growing, and so you know, he and Calcifer use their magic, and the castle expands. I thought that was a really great scene. And then, because Sophie she'd been sleeping like in the near Calcifer, like near the hearth or whatever. And so now she gets her own room. He like provided a room for her and a bathroom. He mentions the bathroom.
And then when she takes his heart out of the hearth, Calcifer, like
takes it out of the castle.
That
was really cool.
Collapses.
Yeah, I love. So Calcifer's like, you know, make sure I'm the last one that goes out. So she turns around and like backs out. And as soon as he crosses the threshold, I love that shot of the door.
Yeah.
It like gets sucked into itself kind of.
Yeah.
And everything.
It was
very cool. But I did think as soon as that happened, I was like, it's raining. And Calcifer at one point it's like, rain.
and that I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that's something that could have easily been looked over. That she walked out backwards, because I feel like if an American studio would have made that, she would have walked out forwards, and it wouldn't have changed anything. But that's a very subtle detail to pay attention to that is needed.
Yeah,
so I like that.
I agree. One of the other notes I wrote, I should have said this earlier, was about the king. When Howl shows up looking like the king, I wrote, he looks like Dr. Robotnik from Sonic the Hedgehog. He's got like
the same thing I thought when I first saw the movie.
He's got like the long mustache, and he's got like the goggles on his helmet and everything. And I was like, he looks like straight out of Sonic the Hedgehog. Not bald, I guess, but that just, I don't know.
Not fat.
Stuck with, and not fat. Yeah.
That's also a Japanese character.
Yeah, that's true, I guess. Yeah.
Japanese made character.
Right.
Because, Sonic was done by Sega.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of that art style as well. So yeah, I'm glad you really liked it. I liked, the moments where he's turning into the bird and he's in the black door,
right,
in battle, and you've got like these gigantic just airships that are dropping bombs everywhere, and it just feels like war and chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And dark, like it's just a dreary place to be at.
Do they ever state what the war is about?
I don't think so. I think
I've seen it 6 times and I still don't know.
I was about to ask you guys that too, because I know the king talks about there's a war going on, and they all say, Hal even says a few times, this stupid war and stuff like that. But I wasn't sure who the war was between, or
we don't even know who the enemy is. They just say
I'm wondering. So how there's like the 2 doors. You've got the royal city, and then you've got I don't remember what the other one place is that Markle first goes to.
Port Haven.
Yeah. I'm wondering if it's maybe between those two places. Like, is Howl, like, meeting between the two enemies?
Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But then you also have the Waste, which is where Sophie's from, and I'm guessing that's part of the same kingdom that the royal city, like, watches over.
I think so.
I assume that.
Yeah.
So maybe the port is also, I don't know. But yeah, it's just, it's interesting. And then the Waste gets bombed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which was kind of terrifying as well.
Yeah, it definitely was. Is the Waste like the slums of the kingdom?
Yeah, I think so. Just I'm basing
a pretty
that
nice
off
looking
of,
slum.
Yeah, but why call it the Waste? I don't know.
Yeah.
I always assumed because it was called the Waste that was. But then again, Sophie's mom is there, but she's like kind of a gold digger.
Yeah.
I guess
she makes the comment that I'm married again and he's filthy rich.
Right, yeah.
And I'm you know what? I'm glad you brought up her mom. What reason did she have to betray Sophie? Did I miss something, or
that's a good question?
What leverage did Solomon have on her?
Probably marrying that rich guy. Or but it never says
who's the
that.
guy to Solomon,
right?
I don't know, but when she leaves, she says to the Solomon's driver or whatever in her carriage, she says, okay, I did it, now can take me to my husband or something like that. She's so. I do get the impression that she did actually marry some rich guy, and I'm guessing that rich guy was introduced to her, or maybe the marriage was arranged or something by Solomon.
Yeah.
And there was just obviously it was contingent on the fact that she go deliver this little package to her daughter. I was going to say, I guess maybe I didn't think the Waste was like where Sophie's hat shop was. I thought the Waste was where she ran off to after she became old. So it's like where she found the scarecrow, like that part was the Waste. The city that she lived in with her sister and everything, that was something else, not necessarily called the Waste.
You might be right.
Yeah, because that's why she leaves. She leaves to go to the Waste to find the witch of the Waste.
And Markle says she's from the Waste, but that's where she hopped on to Howl's Moving Castle, was in the Waste.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then, yeah, never mind.
I could be wrong. That's why I was just saying, like, maybe I misunderstood, but that was
I think
how
you're
I
right,
took it.
because that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot more sense than what I was saying. So,
I was thinking, though, that when they were getting bombed, I thought they were talking about something about the Waste, but maybe I'm wrong about that, too.
I don't remember. It could be. I don't remember.
So the Witch of the Waste was just obviously banished to the Waste, but she can
go wherever she wants, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe she was.
She finally gets.
I don't know.
She gets summoned to
the palace. Yeah.
Yeah, and she's so excited. She's like, I've been waiting. How many years? 20 years, something for.
And gets her powers taken.
But then
away.
when they get there, then when they get there, she gets her powers taken away, and then they realize that, she's summoning witches and wizards there to turn them into deathly war creatures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely got the impression that Madame Solomon was the real, like,
she's the real
at the palace, not the king. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the king is just a figurehead. She runs the joint. She wears the pants and that.
And seemed like kind of a joke. The way he came in and said, I wish I could remember his line. He said something like, "Get my generals ready," or something, like as he's leaving.
At the end, she decides to stop the war. So she becomes,
either that or the war just no longer served her purposes. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking that the war no longer benefited her.
Yeah.
So she said, what's
no,
the
maybe
point?
she was just doing the war to get Howl.
It could be.
Like,
probably.
Like, she's like,
he was her greatest apprentice.
Yeah. If we've got this war going, I can summon Howl. He's supposed to come. It's in his contract. And he never really ends up going, except as the, But
I like how he did say, he's like, I fulfilled it. I'm here, though. He's like, I came. I was summoned and I'm here.
And then maybe when she realized, Hal's with Sophie and there's no more purpose for the war.
And also Sophie put his heart back.
Right.
So she's, that would make a lot of sense in my brain, that she was she kind of orchestrated the war, and now that Howl has kind of been fixed and he's with Sophie, there's no reason to keep the war going, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, lots of people seem to want Howl. Like the Witch of the Waste clearly like wants Howl's heart.
Yeah.
Like she's obsessed with it.
Yeah.
She fell in love with him.
Yeah.
He says, I tried to pursue her and then I realized she was not a very good person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because greed took her over. She was beautiful, but she was greedy.
Right. She just loves those strapping young men, she says. They're so cute. I'm pretty sure she was thinking of Howl at that moment, too.
Probably.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
The only other like moment maybe I wanted to bring up was, after she pulls Calcifer out of the castle, which I liked the reason for that. Like they were bombing the city and they were going for the hat shop, and so like by pulling Calcifer out, like it was no longer, the castle wasn't connected anymore, and it was just a cool idea. But then they like build like a tiny castle for them to travel with, and it ends up getting split apart, and you see Sophie falling, what looks like to her death. And I remember thinking, like, I was invested in the characters and in the movie at that point, and I remember being like, no, like it was really it was a good moment. It's kind of her, her all is lost type moment in storytelling, I guess.
I was gonna say, I'm so happy that you I think you used the word incredible.
I did. It was incredible. I thought it was very good. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so glad.
I think you should rewatch Princess Mononoke.
I think I will. I remember that movie being kind of slow too, but it's been a few years now since I've watched it, and I think I'd be in a better mindset to watch it.
You definitely need to see Castle in the Sky, because like I said, I watched that the other day too, and I remember thinking, man, like I was dead on about it being kind of that 80s Spielberg adventure.
Yeah.
Like it's
that's
got
one I
there.
definitely got to rewatch. I got to rewatch that one.
Yeah.
I'll probably watch that one first before I go back and revisit Spirited Away or Princess Mononoke, but I kind of want to go back and rewatch both of those again. So I don't know if I will like them as much as I like this movie, but maybe we'll something will click this time around. I don't know.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Well, I'm very curious to hear your guys' rating. It sounds like it's a 5-star movie across the board, but I just am curious to see what you guys give it.
I hated it.
Okay.
Terrible.
Half a star.
Half a star. No, I had it on Letterboxd as a 4.5, but talking about it just now, it went up a half a star, so it's a 5-star movie.
Yeah,
for sure.
Okay.
There's a bit of ambiguity. Like we don't really know, like the stuff we were talking about. We don't really know why there was a war and things like that. But it's still a fantastic movie. Like I definitely get that little kid feeling when I watch this. So it's easily a 5-star.
I gotcha. I am actually not going to give it that high. I'm going to say, because of like what you just brought up, the fact of kind of, I feel like there were some things that weren't gone over that I would have liked to have had more,
explanation or
yeah, exactly. And other things.
Well said, John. Well said.
Thanks.
It's so well spoken.
Yes.
Eloquent.
I'm actually going to give Howl's Moving Castle 4 out of 5.
Fire demons.
Howl's Hearts. Yes, Howl's Hearts.
Howl's Hearts. Okay. Well, this is interesting because I'm actually going to rate it higher than John does.
That's crazy.
I am not going to give it 5 stars, but because I agree, there's a couple of things that I think are not like the whole. It would have been nice to know the war, a little bit more about the war, who the war is between, things like that. I also just little things like the turnip head being like, somehow I got cursed. Like, it would have been nice to kind of get a little bit more of that too, but honestly, I think those are just kind of little minor things that just drop it down just a little. And so for me, it's a 4.5-star movie. It was really good.
So awesome. I love hearing you say that.
I knew it would make you happy, so.
I can't wait to hear what your thoughts are on some of these other Ghibli movies.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to checking them out. I don't know if that'll be our next episode, but it'll.
Right.
I'm looking forward to checking them out.
It will be. No,
it will be. Hey, everybody. The next 10 episodes will be Studio Ghibli movies.
Ghibli movies.
Well, we'd love to know what you think about Howl's Moving Castle. You can always let us know at cinemaheroes.com. You can also tweet at us or comment on our Instagram. Both handles are at cinemaheroes. If you're watching this on YouTube, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and let us know in the comments below what you think of Howl's Moving Castle. You also can check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/SM and SM Podcast. I think that about wraps it up, though, for this episode. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm John Pelzel.
I'm Jay Stew.
As always, thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing.